G'day crew, I think that camera's straight. It's close enough. Alright, Ross here, and you're in the shed. Also got to make sure that the microphone's in. How's that? That's better. Got a new U-Butte microphone now, but I don't know how twitchy it is, so if the sound is bad, my apologies. Okay, first week in spring. It's a bit of an average day, but I'm out in the shed and I'm going to do just a little bit of potting up. Alright, so I'll just show you a little setup I've got here. So, can I zoom out? Yes, I can. Now, what I've got here is I had two table frames. I ended up getting two tables off the internet, and I used one tabletop for something else. So I had these two table frames. I've welded them together, and I've made a more or less a standing height desk just below the window. Now, I made the mistake in the first couple of years of planting out seedlings in late August and into September, and they died very quickly because we get frosts up here until round about the 7th to 10th of October. All right, so it's been a mild winter this year. We haven't had too many frosts. However, knowing my luck, I'll plant out and then one frost and it's all dead. Okay, so what I intend to do with this table this time of the year is to have all my seedlings along this window here, which faces north. Keep them watered, they get plenty of sunlight, and I'm going to grow them out for about a month to 6 weeks before we pop them in the ground. Now, these pots here, which are just sitting in some old kitchen trays, they're all exactly the same size, and that was a bit of a win. So you can go to most hardware stores now, and they've often got a big bin in the Green Life area, and that's for people to bring pots that they don't use. The hardware store will put out pots that it's not using, and you can put old pots in there rather than throw them out, and you can take what you want. So I've got all these pots and some more down here, all for nothing, and they're all exactly the same size. So that was a bit of a win, which is nice. Now I've already filled these and I've given them a little bit of a drink ready for planting. I just want to show you what I'm putting in there. Now, that doesn't look like much. I know, it just looks like a container full of not very much. So with your potting mix, use potting mix, don't use dirt. You know, they say use gloves, but I think we're pretty safe. Now, I don't know how well you can see that because the light's not fantastic today. It's only the shed light. This is just a standard potting mix, which is a lot of composted down, quite sort of chunky, very free draining material, which is what you want. If you put dirt in, it's going to compact down. In fact, dirt in pots just doesn't do terribly well. You're better off using a good quality potting mix and then just replacing it every 12 months for your plants or topping it up. I have put seedlings and that in dirt before, and I just do not get a good result. The seedlings don't germinate as well. They don't grow as vigorously. So, you know, use a potting mix. Now, we're on a budget. I didn't go out and get the $10, $15 potting mix. I got the cheap stuff. However, I've added to it. So this has, and you probably won't see it on the camera, but it's got small amounts of slow release fertilizer. Look like little red bubbles, little red and white bubbles. Okay, that's like a slow release, and most of these potting mixes have enough material in them to last 3 to 6 months. We don't need that because I'm only growing these plants out to the point where I can pop them in the ground, and I've got some prepared garden beds with lots of organic material. They'll go in there in 4 to 6 weeks. So I don't need to put lots of stuff in there, but what I have done, I've just got the cheap potting mix. I've popped in some Rapid Razor, which stinks to high heaven, so it doesn't sit in my main shed. It actually sits out in the wood shed because it really smells. I've actually got the mortar and pestle, and I've put in some biochar, which I think I've done another video on that. I haven't posted it yet, but I will. So I've got some biochar. I've mashed it up in the mortar and pestle, and I've popped it in here. Now, your really good potting mix, as in your really expensive potting mix, has a watering agent which helps the potting mix retain moisture. Those watering agents are usually made using an artificial polymer, which they all tell us is safe, right? So they being, you know, the people who make it, of course. I'm not a fan. I'd rather put biochar in. It can absorb up to 5 times its weight in moisture. So I put that in there, and that's pretty much it. So I've filled my pots up. Okay, so I've put seeds in one of those. And all I've done with, I haven't done it with these pots yet, is, excuse the very dirty floor there, is just put these in to the point there's a bit of water on top and pop them in my tray. Now, in this water, I've got a couple of extra little ingredients. Now, I'm not being too silly here because what you have to remember is that the seeds that you're popping into these pots have all the nutrients in them to the point of germination and just past. Okay, so they come with the nutrients that the young seedling requires. Okay, so it's got that goodness. So once these germinate and they start throwing out roots, that's when it's going to start looking for other nutrients. So we're giving it a little bit of a head start. I've put in a little bit of sea salt, like what they call a treatment for plants. It's not a fertiliser per se, made out of seaweed and whatnot. I've also put in trace elements, which I'm a fan of. Now, most fertilisers will have nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, which are the three big fertilisers, and a different percentage of those for different types of plants. Trace elements has sulfur, calcium, magnesium, manganese, iron, copper, zinc, boron, molybdenum. Okay, this can make or break some of your plants. Particularly good for citrus, I've found. If you have citrus that are throwing up lots of flowers and then the flowers all fall off in a good stiff wind, which happened to me in the first year here, I started at a suggestion from a nursery person using trace elements. Now that doesn't happen. I get lots and lots of fruit. So a little bit of trace elements in there, tiny little bit of iron, and that's all I'm using. Okay, it's only getting a little bit of it comes up here now, a little bit of a drink, nothing too serious. Right, let's see if I can move this thing up here and you can see what I'm doing. All right, there we go. Hopefully the sound's all right. Into my messy shed. Okay, as they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be used. Okay, so read your instructions. Okay, with the pumpkins. Now, all I want is one plant in each one of these. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 seeds in each one because I've got about 25 seeds. All right, in that container. It generally tells you how many seeds you get. All right, so I'm just going to sprinkle them around like that, and I think I'll have enough for. Oops, I have a feeling one of those already had some seeds in it. Oh well, it's got more now. That's okay. They're not all going to germinate, and you have to be a little bit harsh with the seeds because if you just let everything go, I'll put some over here, you can't see it, but pot's there. If you let it all grow, it's going to compete for resources, which is nutrients, light, moisture. Okay, and you could think, oh well, I'll just, once I get rid of the plant in the ground, I'll pull it apart, which you can sometimes do, but you've got to be careful in a pot this big that the roots haven't all intertwined, because by pulling them apart you can damage them. So that's all I'm doing there, and then I will pop in probably about 1 centimetre of this fill on top of each one. You don't want to go too high. You've got to remember these, once they germinate, the plant is going to reach for the light. All right, and if it takes too long to get there, it's not going to have enough food to actually push its way through a whole heap of material on top of it, which is the other reason you don't want to use a heavy dirt. You want to use a light potting mix. Okay, so I'm going to do that for all of these. So I'm going to end up with 5 trays. Great thing about a tray like this is they will wick up to a certain point. So you can actually just water in the bottom, put an inch of water in the bottom of them, and they will wick up to a point. However, when you're first doing this, put a little bit of water in on top, okay? Because once they have roots, the material will actually wick to a degree, but not a lot. So it's more for more established plants that will wick up. So in about 3 or 4 weeks, once they've got a root system that's a couple of inches long, they'll wick okay. But for the moment, I'll just water on top. I'll probably come out here every 3 or 4 days, and we'll check back in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure all my beds are prepared for my butternuts, and with any luck, the rabbits won't eat them all this year. All right, so that's it for today. That's it for this coldish sort of spring day. Happy gardening, and we'll catch you soon.